Reno versus the American Civil Liberties Union was a Supreme Court case in 1997 dealing with indecency on the Internet. With the development of the Internet and its increasing popularity, people quickly discovered they could upload and search for just about anything they wanted, including pornography. This movement was known as the Great Cyberporn Panic of 1995. As a result, Congress created and passed the Communications Decency Act in February of 1996. The CDA was an attempt to protect minors from explicit material on the Internet by criminalizing the knowing transmission of obscene messages to any recipient under 18. This was their first attempt to regulate information put on the Internet. The American Civil Liberties Union considers themselves the nation's guardian of liberties. They work in courts, legislators, and communities to defend and preserve the individual rights that the Constitution and the laws of the United States guarantee to every citizen in this country. The ACLU thought the CDA violated the People's First Amendment right, so they took the case to court.
The case was argued on March 19, 1997, and the decision was made on June 26 of the same year. Because this case dealt directly with Congress, it began in the Supreme Court with Janet Reno as the Attorney General representing the United States in trial. Congress's main defense of the CDA was that similar decency laws had been upheld in 3 prior Supreme Court decisions from 1968, 1978, and 1986.
The court ruling was 7-2, deciding the Communications Decency Act was unconstitutional because it took away from the rights of the First Amendment. The majority judges included John Paul Stevens, Antonin Scalia, Anthony Kennedy, David Sauter, Clarence Thomas, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and Stephen Breyer, while the concurring judges were Chief Justice William Rehnquist and Sandra Day O'Connor.
Hi, I'm Allison Wren with the CKW-TV. I'm joined today with United States Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens. He is one of the 7 majority voters in the Reno versus American Civil Liberties Union trial in 1997. So, Justice Stevens, can you tell us a bit more about the case?
Of course. The case dealt with the issue of whether or not the Communications Decency Act was in violation of the First Amendment of the Constitution. Many people saw it as an attempt to protect minors, while others simply saw their rights being infringed upon.
So, can you tell us what side you voted on during the case?
I voted with the majority, Allison. We found that the Communications Decency Act was indeed in violation of the Constitution.
So, do you mind telling us why you voted against the CDA?
I found that the CDA lacked the precision that the First Amendment requires when a statute regulates the content of speech. In order to deny minors access to potentially harmful speech, the CDA effectively suppressed a large amount of speech that adults have a constitutional right to receive. That burden on adult speech is unacceptable if less restrictive alternatives would achieve the same purpose that the CDA was intended to serve. Overall, we found that the statute broadly suppressed the speech of many Americans.
Well, there you have it. An inside look on the Reno versus American Civil Liberties Union from a Chief Justice himself.
Because the Communications Decency Act was ruled unconstitutional, the case of Reno versus the American Civil Liberties Union has set forth a guideline for future documents that want to restrict or limit what can be uploaded to the Internet.